Bracket racing isn't just what we do, it's who we are. It's how we identify ourselves.
What does bracket racing mean to me? It's my life. It's where my people are. My idols, my family, my friends.
Bracket racing is life. Bracket life. Hello and welcome back to the Bracket Life broadcast, Canada's drag racing show. Brandon here as always, and joining me, Andrew Stark. Andrew, how's it going?
Not bad. Can't complain for a Tuesday night. Was out in the yard doing some work tonight, trying to get some stuff ready for winter. Winter's coming at me a little faster than most years due to other stuff that's going on, and just not prepared to be over with it all, to be honest with you.
It's a shame. It's
been a reflective night.
Yes, I can understand that, especially when this morning it was, I don't know how it was for you guys, but it was cold. I think yesterday morning, actually, I went out, I moved something, and there was frost on the windshield. And
that was yesterday. This morning, 8 o'clock outside waiting for the bus. And honest to God, all I could think of was if we had a tractor and some glue, we could be out racing here shortly. It was warm. It was dry. Someone just needs to say 10K race somewhere today and we could be after it. That's the type of vehicle. It was hard to get through that.
I like it. I like the enthusiasm for it, right?
Yeah.
We're all in. We're ready to go racing. It's October 24th, but
I just 2 weeks off. That's all you need, right?
That's it. So tonight's show presented by KD Transmissions in Belleville. Let me get them up here. Wherever it is. There we go. KD Transmission Services in Belleville, Ontario. KD can help with any and all transmission repair services, race car, your normal car, your truck, whatever you need, send it over to KD, get it checked out. They get lots of, premium parts. They do a lot of FTI stuff as well with us here at OV. So, always top shelf parts, lots of other suppliers they deal with as well, and have had great work. They've had great success. A lot of great racers have, use KD and go through that and go through Johnny and Donnie there. And awesome stuff. We appreciate KD always being around, always to help us out, forever. So contact them, send Johnny a message, send KD a message, or if you need some contact info, shoot that over to me and I can get you hooked up with them. But we appreciate them always being on board and supporting us, supporting the broadcast, Bracket Life, and my own racing as a whole. So means a lot for that. If you are tuning in live, be sure to comment where you're tuning in from. Let us know you are here hanging out. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. Got midway through a tongue tie, halfway through that. But hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out with everything that we do on here. Helps out on YouTube, puts us up a little higher and whatnot. And if you're watching on Facebook, when you're done this, whip over to YouTube and hit subscribe. You don't need to use it all the time, but subscribe on there. Just for fun, right? It's a good time.
Just something right out.
Absolutely. There we go. We got Mission BC in the house already, right? Mobile Life RV race team always hanging around. So we have lots going on. Love to see everybody get involved. We have some big Canadian racing news, more for Western Canada, Eastern Canada than the West. Eastern Canada. I keep thinking like Western Ontario, but Eastern Canada more than Western right now. But who knows what's to come for that in the future. We'll get that a little later on. Andrew will dive into the Canadian countdown first. If you missed it last week, missed the announcement, we will post it again. Second annual Winter Rumble Practice Street Challenge coming back to Belleville, Ontario, February 3rd, 2024. So check that out.
It's going to be exciting. Looking forward to that. Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be a blast. I love it. I had a lot of fun last year. Had a lot of good feedback from it last year. So I really hope that we can keep growing this and continue to be a yearly thing. And having a great, February kind of sucks. So, depending on what you're doing, if you're not flying away or doing something else,
you sometimes need some motivation to get back in the saddle for racing and do something. And that event certainly worked last year to do that because, boy, February can be that long, drawn-out month 28 short days of we're not quite there, but we're really close, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So that'll be good. So we'll see everybody there. We have some updates here on some champions from really, Eastern Canada. The ADRA, Atlantic Drag Racing Association Championship, was wrapped up. I believe it was wrapped up before our last show. I just don't believe we had the results at that point. But Junior Dragster champion, not a huge surprise here. Bryson McNeil takes that. And Bryson, we've talked about a lot this year, which is really cool. Cool to see all these racers. We all know what a points championship chase is like. So then really cool to have success all year and then have it culminate with a championship. So good for Bryson there. Sportsman champion Carl Lehman takes that. The bike sled champion Glenn Frizzle, which is pretty much anything ADRA for bike and sled. It's usually Glenn Frizzle's name is somewhere in the top 2.
It's a very familiar name. Anytime we have an Eastern result, right? It's not on there. It almost like, is there a typo here? Because
exactly,
it's not
exactly.
On,
pro champion Mike Ingram. I believe Mike was the super stock champion for the Greenfield deal as well.
Yep.
So Mike taking it down. Benny Neaston, the Super Pro champion. Benny, very versatile. I believe he was, I can't remember if he won Super Street last year in the Pro Trade Association, but very familiar to winning and being a champion. So congratulations to all those racers in the ADRA. Cape Breton, their points championship. Junior dragster Connor Brown. Hank Neaston takes the Sportsman Championship. Kurt Strong, bike and sled. Noah Mugga, pro and Super Pro champion. Oddly enough, Benny Neaston. So Benny getting the double up there, and then Hank taking Sportsman. So cool deal for the Neaston family. Yeah. The Atlantic Pro Tree Association. This is something that's going to, potentially get a little more competitive here in the coming years with some stuff we'll talk about after. So absolutely. Super Straight, Paul Weir gets that. Super Comp, Brett Ramsey. And Ray Bork is the Super Gas champion. I'm unfamiliar really with Paul, but Brett made his way out to Luskville this year for the Brack Bonanza. It's cool to hang out with Brett. I've seen a lot of Brett's time slips get posted between either Brett posting them or Wyatt Rankin posting them. A lot of tight racing.
Oh, yeah.
There. Yep. So congratulations to him. And then Ray Bork was, you hit it?
Yeah, I was going to say, awesome to see the like sportsman style racing, right? Having class champions like this and the support that sees out there, just because I've, that's a soft place for me because I've always loved that type of racing, right? So to watch, to see that they're crowning champions on these individual classes out that end of the world and doing so successfully with such big support, for the size that the racing community is, right, in general in
Absolutely.
Canada, that is really awesome.
And tight racing, right? Great racing, great racers. A lot of those racers do travel and I know have done some NHRA stuff and, on the big stages and have had some success as well. So a great way to learn in your backyard and try those different classes. So Naperville Dragway, we have some champions, same thing. This was posted actually right after we went offline 2 weeks ago. So we didn't get to congratulate them.
We saw it literally as we logged off, right?
Yeah.
It was end of the show and hey, look at this, right?
Yeah. Look who's up here. So we got the champions for them. Super Pro champion Mike Chenier. Chenier doubles usually in the dragster and in his Corvette. 490 Corvette too in the 8th mile. So that thing is flying. Yep. So was the champion on the door car side, or from the door car side, I should say. So good for Mike. Great racer, very successful. Super Tour, absolutely. Luskville, obviously Naperville, and Naperville has a great series going on right now. Yeah. Like if you want to race pretty well every weekend between Naperville and Luskville with the Super Tour deal right now, you can go and run 3 great series. So that's a cool deal.
Decent money too, right? Like it's nothing that you can scoff at here. These aren't like $500 to win races. They're 25, 3, 4, 5, 10, right? Type of events. So
so good for Mike taking that, year long, always down in the nitty gritty at the end of the day. So good for him. Semi-pro champion Yves Poirier. Yves is a hitter in semi-pro. Kind of I don't want to say unknown, but doesn't travel around as much. So then, you don't see that put on those stages, right? Like you don't see it all the time at the Super Tour for every single race. But it definitely a great racer. So we got to race Naperville as well. We talked about it on the last show, right? This was after Thanksgiving weekend was rained out. Rachel and I got to head to the racetrack for the first time, which was awesome, right? Cool to get back, see everybody, get back in the race car. I was pretty wound up, sent a few burnouts out, maybe a little longer than was necessary, but that's how it goes. Right?
There's no level for necessary there. It's just good or not. And it sounded like it was good. So
it was, had some success, got down, I think the round of 6 or 7 cars both days. So it's good. And then, ran into a wall at that point. But champions from the weekend, Super Pro Mark Goyette takes it. Larry Lepin actually doubles up, wins Saturday and Sunday on the bike. Takes down Super Pro. Great racer, had lots of success everywhere else. So, good for them. Raphael Roberge, Emmy Roberge takes the win in junior on Saturday, and then Logan Gagne, the junior winner. I had that backwards. Logan won Sunday. Emmy won juniors on Saturday. Yeah, there we go. Now we're getting it. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. And the Larry Lepin double part sent me for a loop there for a minute through the notes. Sunday, Jay Bellew takes the win in Super Pro.
Closing the season off in style.
That's right. That's how you do it. Good for him. So that was a great weekend, right? It was a lot of fun. Fun to be back there, back at the racetrack and do it. We had, Alex didn't really care. She just hung out. Rachel's got a video of it. They walked up on the stroller. She got her headphones on, and she's sleeping. And you get they're on the fence, kind of where the track is, and I do a burnout out past them, and it was a pretty cool time, right? It was a lot of fun to do that. I'm glad we got the experience before the winter.
Yep. Now you know what to expect. A lot changes between now and then, but at least your first experience went really well, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
And you got the dry run on having a small kid with you at the racetrack and what all that's going to be involved with, right? So,
yes, very very fortunate for Rachel, obviously, to be there, right? She carried the load over that. I did feed a couple bottles in between rounds. I don't think I actually changed a diaper in between rounds. But there was some feeding going on, so at least there was some. I was trying to help.
Well, if staying busy keeps you focused, then there's no lack of work when you bring.
No, there's not. Yes, you are. Yeah.
The kid to the track, right? So there'll be a few sleepless nights moving forward here. I vividly remember early, I think, probably first or second season, up to about 2 or 3 at night because just someone wouldn't sleep, and then the next morning at 7 a.m. when I'm having to unload stuff, going, this isn't going to work out well. And 7 o'clock in the winter circle going, this couldn't have worked out better. Right. Yeah. So it's a bit of a trip. It's a lot of fun though.
Yeah.
So we'll pick it up. So I got the meat and potatoes here. My stuff's mostly on the world stage and everything else. So RCSS rained out, unfortunately, on the final points weekend there. That's where I went. So you went to Montreal. I went to Toronto Motorsports, and we got some trick-or-treating in. That was,
Charlotte was happy, right? So that's what matters.
Hey, I'll take that. That works, right? Got to sleep over, and away we got. But what did happen, and it happened this past weekend, WDA World Finals, we had a big contingent of Canadians qualify to go down. 3 Talbots, Brad, Jeff, and Jay all went down. Rodney Gomes, Kevin Knight, just a large contingent, Craig DeGow. And at the end of the day, Samantha Chatwood from Shannonville, finishing in top 4 in the world and laid down a lap at 4 cars to be boxed out. I think she was 28 dead 3. And
I think 20. I think it was 27 dead 7.
Yeah,
okay. I think it was. But either way, she was a mid 30 package.
A great package, and just came up on the wrong side of that run, right?
Yeah.
But great job for her. She wins the track championship, wins Ontario bracket finals, and then gets to roll home and at least be in the top 4 in the world. I don't know if she finished 3rd or 4th. I didn't see the confirmation on that.
I'm not
but
sure.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Did great job by them. We've got Box had 2 Grand Bend racers get down to the final 8. Rodney Gomes and Kevin Knight. Rodney bowed out in 8. Kevin got down to 4 before, unfortunately, hitting the red light to end his day. But Grand Bend will be able to boast that they've got 2 top 8 contenders on the planet running at their track next season. Winner from that was Jared Ledford, just as a side. So from Michigan, I think that's mid-Michigan Motorsports Park. Interesting story to that one is Jared's, that was his second shot at a world title in 2 years. So it was last year's IHRA box world champion. And then WDRA qualifies to go down there, takes a 440 dragster last year for the world championship, takes a mid 6-second door car this year to come up. I think he went 7 red in the final. It was close, right? Mid 6-second car. And that's the car I believe that he got to the world title with. So diverse skill level there to get that. Awesome deal. And the elephant in the room, no box. Unfortunately, Canadians didn't go as far in the no box one, but Donnie Hagar, like what a story this has developed. And it really, he's had a great season. I mean, but he hit the map in September as the $1 million winner, going off the bottom, saving up the money just to be able to buy into the main event, wins the main event and becomes, one of a very exclusive group of people to win the $1 million and the first one to do it off the bottom. He manages to roll in and win 5K on Friday, takes the warm-up race, and then parlays that into a world title on Saturday. Takes the no box world championship over Brandon Yamali from Empire Dragway. So one of our close American friends, just on the other side of the border there. But just an unreal, I don't think you could write a more fairy tale 2-month type story, right? With the open truck and trailer, the infamously, famous open truck and trailer. Yeah. So what a great story that one turned out to be. Curious to see how next year works out, because with a new truck and trailer, no one's going to recognize him, right? So he'll be able to run around a little bit incognito for at least a short period of time, right?
Yeah. No, it was all up there, because a bunch of posts, I know Drag Coverage had a couple of posts about him. They're like, this is the last weekend for the open trailer and the old pickup truck for Donnie. So that's a cool deal, right? Cool. And then very much showcases that you don't need all the fancy stuff to go do it, right? Yep. So the whole takeaway from this Donnie Hagar story, and if you haven't followed it, you can find it everywhere. Yeah. I'm sure if you're in the racing world, you've heard now of Donnie Hagar. You can't win if you're not in. Yep. Do it. You never know what can happen. Have a great day, string some runs together, pulling the lanes right, and all of a sudden you can turn into $1 million winner pretty quick. Yeah, and then apparently follow that up with a world championship. I mean,
absolutely,
it's not a bad deal. Not a bad deal.
No, not at all. And just as I said, a great takeaway from the whole thing, right? Just one of those feel good stories, right? If this doesn't turn into one of those mainstream, of the US magazines and US story, like driver of the year type things. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're doing lots of small events, but this is one of those type of things. He is front page material. So congratulations. That was a fun weekend. Congrats to all the Canadians. Great showing. Very proud to see everyone do well down there. That was awesome. We're going to move on. Great American Bracket Race. I kicking myself to not go to this. I love Montgomery Motorsports Park. This was not one of the races I had on my calendar this year. And probably better for my budget, to be quite frank at this point. I'm not sure there was much left to scrape together, but Great American Bracket Race team have done some great events. They had a 500K race. A few Canadians went down. Jamie Tupper, Laura Shepard. I think Drew Buchner was there. So Drew qualified to go to the WDRA World Championships. I never did get a chance to follow up on this, but there was someone named Drew Buchner there wheeling a green Mustang at the Great American Bracket Races. And based on how I seen the Jigs jacket, how he's holding the steering wheel, that was Drew Buchner wheeling it. So there's a story there that I haven't quite gotten yet, but Drew was down there. Laura did, I think she went the deepest out of the Canadians, got to the split round, which was the round of 16 in the 500K, and did it on her birthday too. You're not supposed to mention birthdays. I imagine that's the no-go, but great birthday for her to get down to the split round in the Great American Bracket Race, 500K. To kind of throw this in there, I was intrigued by this. Winner, Stephen Champ McCrory, going 730s in the 8th, just for those unaware of what speeds we're going here, taking home the $500,000 championship and kind of keeping the slow door car conversation rolling here, right? Just, Donnie Hagar doing it in the mid 6 second, no box car for the million. McCrory on the 500,000, right? Ledford in the mid 6 second box car, getting the runner up. This has been the year of the door cars. It's been an intriguing storyline to watch throughout it, and really interesting to see almost a mid 7 second car in box, take the W on that one. So,
and Champ is not, just a slouch, right? Like, not just anybody doing this, but really cool for him to take that, for that to be his choice. And he's had that old Camaro for a long time. Camaro, I think it's Camaro, maybe Firebird.
Yeah.
Either way, that old, the old white unit, he's had forever. So really cool to see him do it in that piece of equipment that not everybody would deem is the one to pick. But that's, cool to see. Once again, just proves, anybody can go do this in whatever they want.
A strong strategy, I have to admit. Like, to be honest with you, if you want to make the finish line hard,
that's
go slow.
Yeah.
And you're going to take a mid 6 second car, and you have a mid 6 second car, like a 660 door car, which for all intents and purposes isn't quick. And you're going to make hard decisions now, going 730s, right? So imagine going 440s. It's a strong strategy. I'm intrigued by that, right? Something I kind of executed in the door car, the dragster side of the Super Tour that worked a few times for me at least, right? So neat to see. NHRA Las Vegas, need to have eyeballs towards there because we've got another Canadian out there vying for a world championship. Mike Konopacki undoubtedly will be in the vicinity of Nevada. I would imagine, if not already there, since the race starts Thursday, I guess, is when Sportsman will hit the track.
Anytime now.
Yeah. So Mike's heading down to run in the bike class. I'm not sure if it's super bike or what they call it, but the bike championship. So he's one of 8. That race will usually take place on Sunday. They run it as part of the main event eliminations. So they'll have time trials throughout the weekend. Super excited. Mike is a fantastic big stage racer. Not to jinx anything, but this is a guy that I could see standing on the championship stage on Sunday, and holding the title up. And one of the things we were talking about beforehand, and not to go on a tangent, but just how many Canadian born, racers have won NHRA World Championships. And, Frank Hawley, 1982, 1983 in Top Fuel Funny Car, when I was still being, bantered around as an option in my parents' world. And you were still a long time away from that, right? Like, that's a while back from the only ones I can think of here. The Sportsman ranks is a little harder to kind of go and track backwards, but boy, wouldn't it be huge to see someone win that? I'm not sure if he'd be the first to win a world title on the Sportsman side. I want to say the Kennys have won some world titles, right? Out of Eastern Ontario, because Jason and Al,
I would think so.
Yeah, I know they've won divisionals. I'm just trying to think of world. That was the one that was escaping me. So anyhow, excited to watch Mike on Sunday. If you've got NHRA.tv, then you'll be like me. It'll be on and you will be watching, right?
Absolutely.
Peyton's also have their fuel car there. Won't be a Canadian in the seat, but just another Canadian team to cheer for, as well as many of our Western Canadian class racer friends. That's usually the trek, right? Because it's the back-to-back national divisional. So there'll be should be a contingent heading down there. That's always fun to watch. From there, I guess we'll continue on our NHRA conversation, but now we're going to bring it back home. And I was a rumor yesterday when we were kind of talking about this. It kind of hit some official press last night. But NHRA, I won't say Division 1, but I guess it is Division 1, announcing that 2024, they're going to run a Canadian National Open Series, which feature points championships for 6 racing categories. So Super Street, Super Gas, Super Comp run as individual classes, Stock, Super Stock as a combo, and Top Sportsman, Top Dragster as a combo. And the neat addition, Sportsman Motorcycle. So many of the tracks around kind of on Eastern Canada have Sportsman motorcycle classes. This will be the first time that they're run as an organized group on this level of National Open versus just being an individually run class or bracket class for the whichever track is hosting it. So the races will run kind of from east to quote unquote west, being Western Ontario, I guess is the best way to put this. 6 races, 2 races per weekend. You're going to get a grade point on each day. So the potential, if you go to all of them, to get 12 grade points. 3 of them gets you 6. as you and I were talking about kind of off air beforehand, 8's getting you into pretty much any race on the planet you want to go to, right? So not have to leave Canada and get 6 would be awesome. Toronto Motorsports Park will be hosting 2, so May and the August date. So that might be long weekend. It may not be. Naperville is going to host 2, July and September. Miramichi Dragway in New Brunswick and Cape Breton Dragway in Nova Scotia will be going back to back in August. So they're going to run across from east to west. Nice little division from east to west, right, across the eastern part of Canada. So if you're in the very far east, you've got 6, 8 you can hit up pretty easy. And then if you're on this end, you've got 8 within about a 7-hour trek between Toronto Motorsports Park and Naperville that you can hit up there. Excited to see this. The points banquet will be held in conjunction with the Drag Racing Hall of Fame in Montreal, which is, I believe, sometime in November here. Typically,
I think so.
Or early December. Can't quite remember. So kind
we'll
of a big
if we get invited to the banquet, then we'll find out.
Well,
if one of us happens to turn on some wind lights and get a real formal invitation to it, you know what I'm saying?
That would be valid.
Pick up maybe a championship jacket or something cool like that.
I need a jacket. I don't have a tux either, so a good jacket would be.
Jacket would work.
That would work. That would cover up a lot of the stained T-shirts I'd have to take with me.
So. Absolutely. Yep. We hit a couple more details there. Andrew's going to hit on, I'm sure, the points based on the best 6 races. Andrew, I'd like to get into this whole deal, right? Because it's a lot to take in, a lot to think about. For one, I've never raced the National Open. I've never been kind of a part of that deal. Not really. I don't know. It was just nothing that I kind of had interest in it, but there wasn't really anything set up for me, that was going to allow me to get into that world relatively easy, I guess, or comfortably. But this deal is going to do just that. I'm very excited to hopefully be a part of this, run it. I know I talked to a couple of racers before this, and it's tough, right? It looks intimidating. All the, you have 6 races and they're spread, say, 15, 16 hours away. By the time you get from, Toronto Motorsports Park to Miramichi or Cape Breton, it could be longer than that too.
Yeah, I was going to say Cape Breton is an unknown factor in my head in time, but nonetheless, right?
So you have that big haul, and then, so that's kind of intimidating thing that you need to run the series from, one side of Ontario through to in the Maritimes, deep in there. But you only need to go to 3 of these weekends to be eligible for the points championship. They take your best 6 races. So then that would be 3 weekends, 2 races per weekend. Your best 6 then get counted to your points. So if you are local to Toronto Motorsports Park, right? For example, you run your 2 races there that you have. You need a third one. Okay, you give it a stretch out. You head to Naperville. You go to the Maritimes. You run down there, Miramichi, Cape Breton, hit both of those. You need one more. Head to Naperville as well. That is kind of a central location for this deal at the moment. And then if you run Naperville, same thing. But you have the option now to run Toronto Motorsports Park or head down east to either one, Miramichi or Cape Breton. So really cool deal. I think it'll entice some other racers to try something new. I know the hardcore National Open racers or NHRA racers have made those trips for the most part, right? Because of the grade points and the implications that brings. But now making a series to compete with really is going to add that extra whatever was missing.
Special luster to it, right?
So it'll be cool, and it'll make the competition better. The grade points is a big one, because then it makes it very easy to get them. And then what you can do with that, if you desire to go run a national event or something like that after, that is something you then can earn. But if not, if you have no interest in ever going to run a national event, this is still a really cool deal and has some prestige now with it.
This is the entry level in to get I think it's one of the best avenues I've seen them put together in a long time, outside of some of the local series that ran, like the Western New York Super Rod or the TNC Super Series, right, where they were class-based series. To get your feet wet with stop racing, or maybe it's sportsman and dragster. I mean, I don't want to leave them out, but and not knowing what the indexes, the minimum ETs would be, but I imagine they would be softer than what you would see on the national or divisional level. But this is a great in your backyard opportunity to try out a form of racing without having to get in the truck, drive 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 hours to a divisional to figure out how to make this work, right? If you're a stop racer, there is a big curve there to figure out how to make the thing try to go 90 repeatedly and predictably. And to do that with 9-10 hour tows, that's intimidating. Whereas this now puts it in the backyard. If you're a sportsman or dragster, interested driver, here's an avenue for you to get in. I mean, I know it's just fast bracket racing compared to, what we do with Super Pro all the time. But if you're on the cusp and want to try this, here's some grade points. You can get into a national event, right? Not every event is got a bump spot. There are avenues here to get in with a minimum dial. And then if you got the points, you're in to go play. So it gives, everyone a chance to really taste something without having to have the huge investment of hitting the road, finding a race in the US. And the point side of it, it just adds that intrigue, right? The Can-Am Stock Superstock Association really backed the stock superstock portion of this series for many years, and they had a points aspect to the National Open, and they did well. And it showed that if you build something, there will be support for it. And it paid very well. Don't get me wrong. There's a very good points fund there, but it took a local association to kind of throw its weight behind it, and it did well with that, and it brought a lot of people in. That's where you talk about the people traveling. So I'm intrigued by this. I'm definitely got a couple dates on here that I'm putting onto the calendar as the 2024 calendar starts to form in some capacity. And excited to try out some stop racing again. It's been a passion of mine for years and years and years. Just not had many avenues to go, through COVID and then a little bit prior to that. But this certainly kind of reignites that interest to go do that. Now I need a dragster for Super Comp. That's the hard part.
Yeah, exactly. And I need a roadster for Super Gas. So anybody looking for some different stuff, we have some equipment we need to move around here. Yep. I have a dragster for you, but I don't think that's going to work for both of us to drive that roadster.
No, it's the doubling in NHRA is not looked at the same as doubling in bracket racing.
No,
so
exactly.
A little different.
But it'd be cool, right? I'm excited for this. We had a conversation already about which car is going to, have a throttle stop put onto it or used the one that already has one sitting on top of it. But trying to decide how that's going to go, thinking of some different plans for chasing the point series or trying something new like that. So it's been a conversation in our household already. Yeah, I'm excited for. I'm excited to see what happens. We had a question there, Mark Bedard. National Open Series is run on quarter mile. Usually, yes. I believe it's still going to be.
I think it's a mix depending on.
Yeah, I think there's some up in the air questions. Yep. I know Kuga has some up in the air questions about running quarter mile or eighth mile. That's been a little bit discussed on the one post that was already made. We can go through that. I know down east they run quarter mile for the most part. Yeah. Miramichi does for sure. I would imagine Cape Breton does as well. And Naperville has run quarter mile. You can run quarter mile there, no problem.
I want to say the top sportsman, top dragster there, I think has run eighth.
It could be.
I think it has when they've run it. So I know I've seen Super Stock and the Super Combo run quarter there, but so I think it's going to be one of those deals where it's open to whatever the track distance is to an extent, right? There's been some discussion of eighth mile tracks in and around Eastern Canada that might be joining this that one day, and they are eighth mile only type tracks. So if that's the case, then they're not going to be, excluding them just because they're not the length to go the quarter mile. So it's exciting. And I like the mix, to be honest with you. It's
me too.
It's there's a challenge in being able to make things go 990 and then try to make it go 630. It is not the same setup, right?
Yeah.
But to do it is quite the, feather in the cap type of deal.
Yeah, that's how I'm excited for it, right? The whole deal is going to be good. Like I said, I'd love to have figure out something over the winter to get to a super gas type situation. I'd love to run both. I'm just really, I really just want to race against Charlie Konopik,
Yeah.
I'm excited for Charlie to beat up on me. I've never gotten to do that. I've raced at the same races as Charlie for a few times, but never never got to race him yet. And he's thrown it out a couple times about coming and racing with him and doing the 90 stuff
Just
a little bit. So
careful what you ask for, though.
That
right?
I am totally ready for every
Jigs All-Star, right?
Boot kicking that he is going to give me. I am fully prepared for all of it.
Yeah. Don't forget about the Stroud, right? Like
that's
top
it.
2, 3. Never did find out about the point situation. I meant to follow up on that, but with everything still kind of operating divisionally, points wise, I wasn't sure what was set in stone or not. But hey, there you go. There's some candidates out there for.
That's it.
Some boot kickings. So
it'll be fun.
Absolutely. So from that kind of wraps up the countdown tonight. 2 weeks, we should have some more. I mean, 2 weeks, we will definitively have some answers on how Mike's done out in Vegas. I see Adam's checked into the chat. Maybe Adam can tell us, has Mike made it to Vegas? We were just conversing that he must be in the general vicinity of Nevada at this point, if not already there. But yeah, we got, and I guess the one thing I missed, maybe before I jump on here, we've still got an NHRA Fuel Tech World Championship with Justin Bond, I think still in the running. I'm 31 points back of Christopher Thorne for the NHRA Fuel Tech. This is their final race at Vegas too. So almost a glaring omission on my end there, but I'm not quite sure how. Well, we under the wire, right? Like just, in, but yeah, nothing to be forgotten about there. That will be a big weekend for the Justin Bond team as they try to get past their teammate Thorne for the world title. I think it's an uphill battle there, but it's certainly doable, right? There's qualifying and 4 rounds of eliminations. Anything can happen.
Yes, sir.
So
yes, sir. Mike Konopacki has landed.
He has? There he is.
There we go.
Perfect.
Konopacki is there. He's ready to go.
Good deal.
We're cheering him on. We're excited to see what happens. So, yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be cool. Hit the main
discussion, right? I was just saying, so this one we kind of hinted at getting into because we've had discussions and the off-season discussions when the results are few and far between. We get into some good conversations about different things that you and I do and just different racing angles. And one of the things that we talked about a little bit through our time off before you got back to Naperville before my season just ended willfully because of weather, was kind of reviewing, we talked about expectations and goals throughout a year. And then the discussion is, well, what do you do with those at the end of the year, right? How do you summarize that? How do you, put that into some form of key indicator, right? Because there's no point in setting goals if you don't have a way to kind of measure them afterwards, right? And one of the things that kind of came up was, what kind of year have you had? I mean, and we've had 2 very different types of seasons from the standpoint of just the type of racing we've done. I mean, I had probably one of the busiest years I've ever had, putting 144 hours in the truck, which doesn't seem like a lot until you see 6,600 miles, which also doesn't seem like a lot when I talk to people who live in Alberta. So I should qualify this, right? I think 6,600 miles is basically like a trip to Vegas and back or something crazy, right?
Yeah, you're probably close.
Being facetious here, but it's probably not far off this, right? So, but that was one of the bigger years that we've had, right? And in that we were able to get to a couple main event wins in no box, had a final in a 5K box, 3 10K semis in box, 1 5K semi in the box, and 2 10K quarters. And for previous years, that might not have been as big a success rate in the overall get to a finals type thing than what I've been used to. But at the same token, we've been to Naperville Super Tour, Luskville Super Tour, Dragway 42. Gone to Columbus to the Fling. We've run some really big events with some really big racers. Dragway 42 Halloween thing, 230 cars in round 1, right? For, like a local race with a lot of great racers. So from that angle, it's you kind of got to change, your kind of key performance indicators, right? Years gone by, but how many final rounds did you get in this year? This year was a little bit different because that was going to be a much harder feat, right? Based on just the level of competition. So I guess on your end, you've had a much different season just because of various different things, right? Off the track. So I guess, from that standpoint, how did your year looked like what versus mine?
Mine was a lot less.
Yeah.
That's pretty much less of everything. It was, we hit Naperville, Luskville, Dragwood 42. Those were, I went to Cuga, Went to Hugo for the
Yep.
660 race.
Yep.
So that's about like, and I want to say I did. There were 8 weekends. To put that in, we went racing eight weekends this year. To put that into perspective, last year Rachel and I were gone for 23 weekends of racing. So a little bit of a different outlook here. A little bit, priorities. I don't want to say like priorities changed, right? When we moved, you have a baby and everything like that, and that just is what it is. But with everything else that was happening, it was still racing was still a priority when we did show up.
Yep.
Right. Still didn't have the great success. Right. It's not my best year by any means. Didn't get a win. I believe I was in. I don't even know if I went to a final, to be honest with you. A lot of semifinal finishes.
Yeah.
And a lot of quarterfinal stuff. So a lot of rounds that were ran just didn't seal the deal. Yeah. Right. And then I don't believe that was because of everything else. It wasn't my day to win. Yeah. I had great runs whenever we did show up. I know like the Dragway 42, when you look back at that weekend, the first 2 days of it, we struggled with the race car. Yeah. And we could not do anything with that. It would not leave the starting line. And then you finally fix it. And then, Saturday I went to round 5 when I click it, whatever, 3,000 red or something like that. I think actually I flinched on that one. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That's when I lost that one round 5. But, you get the race car running the way you need it and then show up for that. And when lights came on, such as like last weekend in Naperville, not being in the car for 2 weeks or 2 months, I guess. Yep. 2 months, which is, I'm not used to saying it like that.
Not in a mid-season type conversation, right? No. So,
and then go out and, you look back on those time slips, like there was not bad time slips. Yeah. The 2 rounds that did put me out of the race Saturday and Sunday, with tires that have been on this race car for a year and a half, mm-hmm. and, over 200 runs on a set of Big Bubba tires that are supposed to be good for 150, they, that had let me down on that. Is, I was 3 above on Saturday night against Felix Balaby and couldn't give him that much of room. And Sunday I fell off a 10th actually, and okay. I don't believe that's the racetrack. That was, having this other engine and this other setup, trying to go, low 460 and on tires that are well past their life, but other than that, like we had a great, it was really fixing to be a great weekend.
Yep.
And finish off that way. So I feel good about it with everything that was happening. Like I said, I tried really hard this year when we did show up not to let the outside world impact it, because it'd be pretty easy to let it happen, right? With all that is going on, but and that does come with help and support that you have around you too. But
well, that's the thing, right? And I think you hit on a couple of interesting points there too to kind of qualify some of this, right? Like we talked about, it's you were making good laps, and you start to talk about, like the car in some sense was where this, there were some weak points, right, with the year, and same struggle on my end, right? So one of the things that like we talked about a little bit off the air, but just how do you qualify these things? Because it's easy to get into the win-loss conversation, right? But you said I made some really good laps, right, and that can be the story of some of my big money racing this year, where I made good laps, didn't always get great results, but there were some laps that were decent. And when I was making really good laps, I was making good laps, but was struggling with car setups. We lost an engine early in the year, had to put another engine in it. So I chased the rest of the year with suspension, torque converters, and everything else. And quite frankly, by the end of the year, I finally found a combo that I was super happy with. And then, it's October and it's over. Right. But, how do you want to gauge, what you've done? So you set the expectation of the start of the year. This is what I want to do. Here's where I want to go. I'd like to finish in the top 10 in points, or I'd like to, do things like that. This kind of, some of these questions I've come up with to kind of ask myself, right? And maybe that's the segue into this, was like, how do you put a KPI to these things, and how do you take these results, right? Because you say you just want to do good. All right, what's good? Good's subjective to each person, right? So one of the things was like, how do you determine what your performance was? Like, it's easy to use round wins and losses, right? But if you're out there consistently laying down 21, 22 packs, making good laps, right? Like, that's 10, 1/1, or that's, 11, 1/0, or 12 dead 9. Like, these aren't laps that are bad to scoff at. But if you're constantly doing that, not coming up with a W, you could easily have a round win record of 10-50 and look at and go, I had an awful year. But you made good laps. I mean, the worst thing you did was how you pulled into the lanes. So I felt like when I had years like that, I had to find a subjective way better to evaluate that, right? So I, go to the logbook and start rolling through it. And I know you do a lot of logbook looking, like you're into a lot of analysis, right? And I think that's one of the things that I probably did more of than I do now. Maybe that's something I've gotten away from, right? Funny how life gets in the way of doing these audits, right? But in the end of the day, how do these results line up with the expectations for the year? So I said I wanted to go out there and I want to hang in the mix. I'm going to go to another level. I'm going to race on a different level I'm used to. Back home, there would be an expectation if I was running local to say, I should be in 6 or 7 finals throughout the year between box and no box, with the expectation of winning probably most of those. Just that's been historically how I've had success. That's probably unrealistic when you're going to hit the road on places you've never been to. So what do you want to do? Well, in my scenario, I just want to be in some late rounds. I want to be in the mix. I'd like to be there, if they're down to 8, I'd like to make some splits, right? And so, round win wise, it was probably a much more even record than what I would have expected from years gone by. But when you look at that, box score, like I opened up with there, all of a sudden now you're looking and going, that was a much better year than I maybe had anticipated I was going to have, based on what I had to deal with from a car, lost a motor, fighting a combo. Second car is still kind of doing its job. The fortunateness of having the 2-car system, right? That's the first world privilege of having 2 cars and one that still works good. But you're fighting that, right? And then how do you rate, your driving results? Like, these are things I start to break down. Okay, so did the car drag me through this, or did I drag the car through this, or was it a combination of both of us dragging us down, or did both of us, get through this together? And these are the type of things I try to qualify these type of, expectations with, right? So like, great question. We'll just go point blank on it. Based on your more limited amount of racing that you're doing it, like, where do you put your driving? How did you drive the car, and how did that result in the results that you ended up with?
I have to separate both ends of the racetrack for how I review my year and have been looking at it. The starting line was awesome. Starting line was as good. Like,
maybe let's throw this on an A to F scale. That might be easier to qualify. A
for letting go. Hitting the tree, there's no complaint there at all, and I've been very fortunate to not really have a complaint there for a while, right? Been very focused. I have a good routine. I have a good setup for that, and how I hit the tree. I've been very consistent. That's not very, very rare. Is the starting line the reason I lose a race in general, right? I'm not saying I need to be that I'm perfect every round, but
like, more often than not,
like, I'm not going to be. I very rarely am I 15 behind my opponent.
You're ahead, right? Or even more often than you're working from behind a lot, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I can't even complain with my race car. I obviously just did, when I talked about Naperville there, but I cannot complain about the race car. The race car has been great all year, even when I had a combination in it that was not perfect. When I was changing engines and it had the wrong torque converter in, we were blowing through it, whatever. That was a stressful time, but still found some success with it. But my finish line driving was, I don't even want to say terrible. Like, it was bad and cost me a lot of rounds, but that was because of the attitude when I came into this year, saying that today doesn't really have a huge impact on it. Like, I wouldn't win the day, but try some different things right now, because we knew we were taking 2 months off in the heat of the season. So like, there's not a point series or anything like that you're going to be a part of, because you're going to miss all those races, and that's it. Show in the series,
it's just
right?
Going to happen, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't, if you want to try something new, try it right now. So I ran a lot of races this year, holding different things, right? I was used to maybe having like holding one and can do that, get rid of it to be dead on. This year at points, I was trying to hold it, 4 or 500ths there, and then trying to kill it in different ways and learn different things. A couple rounds it worked, a couple rounds it didn't, right? I don't feel like that experiment itself was a failure, but if I relied on just the race car and could have dialed it, I think more win lights would have came on, based on with how good my equipment is, how good the racetracks are, and how how I was hitting the trees on the starting line. So that cost me a lot of round wins, making those mistakes. But those are the mistakes that come with learning, and trying the different strategy and doing it. And I was still making those mistakes in the quarterfinals or in the semifinals, and then actually I had run a final with Bob Jennings at the 660 race when I was at that point very frustrated with my race car, and that weekend itself was rough on me, with up and down with the combinations, but the driving was still decent. It was just my game planning, I guess.
It forced you into some strategy that was uncomfortable, because it's new territory and not something that was, long practiced, right?
Yeah, and it forced myself to make mistakes. Not, I feel that I made more mistakes and gave away more rounds than racers actually beat me. And that just is what it is. But that was all part of my goals for this year, was to at least try it. We did it. I found a lot of things that worked, a lot of things that didn't work or need work on. But definitely didn't happy with how it finished. So what about yourself? How do you look at your overall year?
So to go from the actual driving, I'll break it down into two parts, or four, I guess, because there's two starting lines in my repertoire and two finish lines in the box, no box, and they are different between the two cars. Off the bottom, a solid B. Like when I was good off the bottom, and I did a lot of box racing, like box class racing off the bottom this year in the Mustang. There were some rounds and races where I felt better off the bottom than I did off the top, right? And the no box wins kind of demonstrate that, but just the results we had there off the top, E for effort. I'll go right off the bottom here. I did not hit well off the top ball all year long. Like the consistency was the issue. I could string a couple of good ones together, and then for whatever reason, it was just fall apart from there at times, and never really found to be consistent. With that said, back to some great finishes, because most of the results I talked about, the 10K semis, the 5K final, the 10K quarters, like those were all in the Corvette, or most of them off the Corvette. A couple, the one was off the bottom in the Mustang. Finish line in the Mustang, strong. I'll give myself maybe a B there again. Like I executed things well, right? Back to, my goal with the Mustang this year was to go out there, because we were going to go to the spring or the summer fling and run the Pro 48, which was really was some of the best bottom bulbers in central USA, right? When you look at Nick Hastings, Tom Artakis, right? Like Tom put on a show and demonstrated why he's one of the baddest racers, right? Michael Gremlich, who was down in the World Championships. Teddy Barnes, I'll throw him in there just because Ted's terrible Teddy Barnes, right? But these are some great ones. So the idea was, let's go race some finish line strategy with the Mustang, and it executed it well. The Vet was a struggle, and that was back to the car. Like almost like you get to the point where you couldn't trust the car, or you felt like you couldn't. And if I had trusted it more, there's a round at Drag Race 42 in the Ace event where I think it was round 5 or 6. I let go 8. Didn't feel good about the let go, but I was 8. If I run it out the back door, I'm dead 4. Like I'm 12 total on a run that was, beats the other guy here handily. And I give it back 3,000 because I'm down there working it hard, thinking I got to take the least amount possible and don't have any faith that what's just happened here.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of funny, like when you start to look at this, like the results are in the one car, but my overall rating in the finish line, the vet might be more like C in the finish line. Right. So not great off the top in the vet. C finish line driving, right? When I was good, I was okay, but I wasn't consistent. When I was bad, I was downright awful, right? Multiple times leaving off the top ball, pulling 5,000 to be 2,000 red. That was almost a 3 weekend in a row deal to the point where it was the joke on Sunday, right? When are you going to pull 5 out to go 2 red? Like right now, I have 3 cars.
I would say maybe just pull 3 out.
I think it's just stop 5. Pulling and just let go better, right?
Well, that's also an option.
That's that would be what Kyle would tell me is just
if Kyle Jesso was here right now, be better.
That's right, be better. So it's funny how when you look at it and when you look at how you were looking at for results, right, where that ended up being. So kind of one of the other indicators I'd had was like, how would you rate how your car was, right? And we kind of hammered this through. I mean, this is kind of a quick conversation here because we both talked about how we struggled with our cars for various reasons from 2 sides, but overall, where do you put your car in this? Because I think with this, what I'm leading to is there's, where does this put you in your off season for 2024? Because you expected some result from the car. This is what you got from it. So here's the plan to, fix it. So cars, because I know you wheel too sometimes. Yeah. Where are you going to put them at?
I'm going to put them both Dukes at A, mine at A. I think both those race cars are bad, right? They're really good cars, really great, great driving cars. I'd put some new rubber on them and let them go.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I don't believe there is much there obviously is, right? There's going to be a million things you can do for it. There is not much, honestly, that's going to make a marginal difference in either one of those race cars right now.
Yeah.
Mine right now, with the proper converter, with it working, that thing is going to run mid to low 60s, I hope, all year, and should be deadly consistent. In Naperville, it went between 64.7 and 65.5 for the first run. I want to say 7 or 8 times in a row. You can't really on wore out tires, so you can't complain about either one of them. Now, does that mean like both of them don't have to stay? I'd like for they're both, if they both hang out there, there's not going to be a problem in the spring if somebody else can kind of come up and all of a sudden we find something to race super gas with. That'd be fun. I dabble into that, but both those cars rate at the moment. I give them an A rating.
Yeah,
and I really believe that the only issue I had with them was the loose nut behind the wheel, as they say.
Fair.
How about to yourself? I know this is a different conversation because dragsters. This is the door car dragster conversation right here, right? I have 2 dragsters that they run a methanol. They don't move a whole lot with the weather. There's really not really much to it, right? There's not a big change in suspension or this and that with how it leaves on the starting line and how it does a wheelie or nothing like that, right? Like we don't have to deal with those problems. So how about yourself with 2 very different door cars?
Yeah, like back half to no box style Mustang and then a tube chassis Roadster, right? Like wildly different. One's 2,400 and a half pounds with driver in it, and the other one's 31. So way different setups. I would at the start of the year, so changing it up, putting the 16-inch tires on the vet to move to the little Bubbas. Like the Bubba experiment was by far a success. I've never made a change to the car, I think, that was more successful than what we did with the tire. With that said, to start the year, if we go back to just before we had an engine that got hurt, I put the car probably at, I would probably put it at like a, C plus, B minus. It was a good car. It was, we had some struggles with it. I think the 16-inch tire was, at that point on the cusp for it. Middle part of the year with the new motor, the torque converter that was in it, and against some suspension changes, there was probably more of a C minus type car. As much as it went rounds, I felt like I had to drive harder to make those rounds.
Yeah.
We changed the converter, went from a 5900 stall converter, which was a little tight, didn't expect it to be that tight, to end of the year. I took a Hail Mary and said, like, we're going to put this one in. We're going to try it. It might be too loose. All of a sudden now it's stalling 6,600, and that car was bad. Like, it was unreal. We went there. It's a gas car. We went to Grand Bend to test at the their fall bracket race, and it went 548 for 7 straight runs, and the 60-foot didn't move more than a thou. And all of a sudden now it's like, this works, like, to the point where we had an idea that we were going to put a fresh motor in to start the year, like a new motor we're building for it. I think I'm just going to go back the valve springs off, clean the fuel out, put it up on jack stands, maybe put some wax on it. And that's what we're starting the year with. That car was, like A plus, all the confidence in the world, which was, when we went to Dragway 42 with it, after that, it I came off the trailer with blind runs every day and had all the faith in the world and made great laps. The Mustang was a tale of almost the opposite. Came off the trailer and that car was A plus. And by the end of the year, we were having some struggles with it. Now, I think that was just because, motor and converter got tired. Did a lot of runs on that. We do have the spare one ready, like not spare, the replacement ready to go in, kind of finish the year on C plus. So when you look at what you're going to do for next year, type of thing, like, what do you draw out of this conversation? I've got a fresh motor, likely a new converter that's going to need to be bought once I get the dyno up and running. God, we're so close on that dyno. The ongoing saga of the Superflow. That should be a separate series in this whole deal, right? But, like, the takeaway on that was we need some work to do in that car. We've probably neglected that Mustang a bit. It's been the workhorse for the camp. It's been the, just bring it out and it just goes rounds all the time. And it's a little tired now. So, that end of year C or C minus on it really is reflective of, what I'm going to do this off season. Now that this info and the way you bring this down is, we're going to go put a fresh bullet in it. We're going to put a fresh converter in it. We're going to go through it front to back, probably either get the shocks checked or replaced, and give it some attention that it sorely needs. And the Corvette, I'm just going to wax it. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to call it nice names. I'm going to, pet it a few times and say, great job. And just hope that everything that happened on those final 2 weekends of racing just stays in that car so that it comes off the trailer next year fresh. Even the rubber on it is too fresh to take off on the back end of it.
Love it.
I don't think a lot needs to be done, right? Tidy up a few things, right? Maybe look at shocks or something I've looked at too on those cars, because again, they've been around for a while, right? But I take these results and go from it and look at the retrospect of it all, going, I was probably not as good as my cars. Back to the loose nut behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Of those 2 cars from front to back, even though they had 2 very different seasons on how I would rate them, the consistent part was I was consistently the difference in those cars. They were the better of the 2 entities there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so 2024 off season, there's a practice tree just to my left here, because I'm going to be laid up for a few weeks coming up here. It will get worn out, because the reality is, in the overall reflection of how I did very well. And I probably could have done much better if the driver had done better, right? And been more prepared, because the cars clearly did a good job, even when they weren't as good as they could have been.
Yeah. No, I definitely hear you. I agree. I think that's probably, the case for most racers. It usually is just the driver. We make up excuse for the race car, but it's normally just us.
Well, and I think it's true, right? Like, normally the cars are usually much better than we are. I think the case to be made is where do you see yourself, right? I probably put myself a little higher on my expectation of how I was going to do personally, and I did not execute. And that's, that's where the accountability is going to come in, right? But almost always it's the person, the guy or the girl behind the steering wheel letting go of the button that's going to be the bigger of the 2 problems, right?
Indeed, it normally is. So, Andrew, that kind of wraps us up for this week.
Yep.
Good show. Good recap going over it. Congratulations to all the champions that we highlighted there. Good luck to Mike Konopacki rolling out. Like I said, I know Adam's watching. Keep us in the loop. I'm sure we will be watching. We'll be checking it out, seeing what's going down. Yeah, that's about it for this week. We'll have lots of updates in 2 weeks. We'll be back. That's going to be unfortunately in November. Wild how time flies.
I know.
But yeah. So we'll see how it goes. We'll talk to everybody then. Thanks for checking in. Thanks, KD Transmission, supporting the show as always. And everybody checking out, everybody hanging out in the chat there. It's really cool. Fun to hang out with. We did get Dave Anthony did comment. Cape Breton is a very nice 8th mile track.
Yep.
So we did get an update from our earlier National Open conversation there. So yeah, thank you guys very much on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button just below. On Facebook, like the video, like Bracket Life. Go on YouTube, log in, and subscribe. You don't need to watch us there, but subscribe to it either way.
That's it.
Absolutely, Andrew. Thank you very much. It's a lot of fun, always is, but I love doing it. Glad we get to do this another winter together to stay fresh on all the drag racing news and updates in Canada.
That's it.
All right, thank you guys, and we will talk to you all soon.
Have a good one.
Bracket racing isn't just what we do, it's who we are. It's how we identify ourselves.
What does bracket racing mean to me? It's my life. It's where my people are. My idols, my family, my friends.
Bracket racing is life. Bracket life.